What would you think if I suggested to you that what is preventing you from hitting the goals that you have for your business has far more to do with your nerves rather than your knowledge? In today's episode, I catch up with Brad Ellison. He is the founder of Ellison Painting and co-founder of Rollout Marketing. We talk risk, we talk reinvention, we talk irrational confidence, as he likes to say. He shares a bit about his life before painting and then his journey in building a $5 million painting business in just 3 years. Brad is a unique guy, but what makes him so unique is how radically committed he is to things that are tried and true. So tune into the conversation. You'll get a feel for what I'm talking about. Hope you enjoy. Bradley Ellison, thanks for making some time to come and chat with me, man. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to chat with the most handsome of the Aleph team.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we were chatting a little bit before hitting record. I think people can probably relate to this who go to industry events and listen to industry podcasts and different things, that you kind of feel like you know somebody. And then if you have an opportunity like this, it's like, there's actually a lot of questions that I don't know. So obviously you are good friends with Aleph and partner Jason Paris. And so I've been around you a bunch. But in thinking of what I want to talk to you about, there is a number of things I don't know. So I'm looking forward to doing that a bit. You've shared your story quite a bit, but one of the things I just want to jump right into, like, early life, was entrepreneurship like a foregone conclusion when you were a young buck, or like not necessarily?
In retrospect, if I look back at my childhood and my teen years, there was definitely a desire to create businesses and work for myself, but I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents had jobs and my aunts and uncles had jobs and worked for other companies. But I remember setting up lemonade stands when I was a kid. And I remember going door to door and offering to mow lawns for cash in the summer. I remember when I was in high school, I talked to my little brother and sister, who are 4.5 and 6.5 years younger than me, in running a lemonade stand. I funded it. I set up the table, and they had to be out there selling. And I knew they were cuter than me and they'd sell more lemonade. So that was, there was a bit of that in my childhood. And then certainly when I got into college is when I started my first company, which was a window washing business. I worked one summer for another company when I was 18, and I'm like, this is easy. I could sell my own window washing jobs. I should work for myself. And that was my first company. It was called Elect Window Washing. So,
okay.
Yeah.
As you were doing that lemonade stand stuff, were you self-aware of like, I'm doing entrepreneurship is what I want to do? Or was it just more of like, I wanted some money and I kind of just intuited this? Like,
I don't think I would have known
entrepreneurs.
I would not have known the word entrepreneurship. The people that I lived with, grew up with, my friends' parents, none of them were business owners. We grew up in a relatively nice suburban area in Metro Detroit, but it was still pretty working class. And it wasn't like we were growing up with a bunch of people that own mansions and own these huge companies. So I think it was just I've always been a bit of a hustler and wanted to make money. My goal was never to be in sales or entrepreneurship. My goal when I was growing up was to be a professional singer. That's what I did. I was the musical theater guy. And even for a couple of years in college, that's what I studied because I thought I wanted to be on Broadway. It wasn't until that became very evident that I wasn't good enough and it wasn't going to be the type of career in life that I wanted, that I start shifting my focus and trying to figure out what I really wanted to do in my real life.
But even that, let's see, how old is Ellison Painting? How many years?
3 years, just over 3 years now.
And then how many years in the painting industry before that?
Another 4.5, 5-ish.
So there was like a pretty big gap between like college and maybe like
Mhm.
some of the childhood dream dissipating, or just not dissipating, but maybe just growing up and realizing,
Yep.
what I really want. And then, before you really, really found your groove, like during that period of time, were you like stressed, wringing your hands? What should I do with my life? I don't know, trying stuff, or were you just kind of contently going from thing to thing? Like, what did that time look like for you?
Yeah, I would say the period of time from age 19 to 34, what's that, 15 years or so. It was a very interesting period in my life that I did and tried a lot of things. And I had some degree of success and a lot of failure. And I mean, my life now is completely different. But so to answer your question, so I'm in college. I changed majors. I decided I'm going to study business, whatever that meant at that time, marketing or something, and lost all my scholarships that I had for singing. And once I did that, I'm like, well, okay, so now I'm in college. I don't have any scholarships. I got all these student loans, and my family was not helping to provide financially at all, which means I was also working full time. So I'm working full time, going to school full time as a 19 and 20-year-old. And eventually I just stopped going to school and I dropped out. And I lingered for a couple of years, worked at this law firm that my mom worked at as a legal assistant, and was dating this girl. And ultimately she issued me an ultimatum. It's like, you either have to like get a real job so we can get married, or like we're just going to break up. And so I did what you're supposed to do when someone issues you an ultimatum is, yeah, all right, I got a job. And then I proposed. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty personable with my history and performance. I thought that I could do okay in sales. So I sought out a sales job, and I got offered this opportunity with a life insurance agency locally. It's a nationwide company, but they were hiring. Turns out they're hiring every week, right? The churn at that place is so high, but I didn't know any better. And so I took the job, and first month out, I was the number one salesperson out of 60 salespeople statewide. And that's where I first started to find some success and figure out like, all right, well, I could sell. I like selling. It turns out I'm really good at it. And I moved up the ladder in that business. At one point had a team of like 15 other agents working for me, was making, upwards of $200,000 a year, and was like flying high. And then 2008 hits, and culmination of that and some other factors, I didn't feel great working for the company anymore. I went from making 200 grand a year to making $12.50 an hour as a sales assistant at a marketing agency. So I knew sales was my line, right? But still had not found a real home. So I bounced around. I did marketing sales. I worked for, I sold some health insurance for a while. I sold software, went back to another marketing agency. It was that whole 15 years was nothing really solid, a lot of trial, error, no real fulfillment. And it wasn't until Rachel and I got married, engaged and then married, where we decided, you know what, we just don't want to work for anyone else ever again. The things that we do, the skills that we have, we can figure out something to do to have our own business and be in charge of kind of our own destiny. And so right after we got married, we both quit our jobs. She had been working for her dad, making really good money as an account manager for his company. And I quit my job, and we started a health insurance agency. I had so many friends from my days in insurance that were making a killing doing that. And so we were confident that we could rely on ourselves. It was going to be a risk, but we thought we could do it. So we did it. And we had a little bit of money saved up from when I sold my house when we got married, 30 grand. And that was like our little nest egg and our initial investment. And it was successful. That business, the way it works is you can sell those health insurance policies. At that time, it was for 90 days during open enrollment period. And then the other 9 months, we were planning on traveling, but instead we got pregnant and thought it more responsible to, continue to do something to generate money. So we had the health insurance business, and that's when I kind of stumbled into the paint world. And I didn't go work for another painting company. Technically, he hired my company to sell for his, and then ultimately to manage and run his business. So it was still working for myself, even though our only client was
Sure.
the painting company. So, and that's, I mean, once I had a partner, once I had in Rachel, my wife, who understood that reward comes after risk and trusted me implicitly and believed in my ability and believed in our partnership, right? That was when I felt fully empowered to be an entrepreneur, if that's what you want to say. And even to this day, we're now almost 9 years into our marriage. So 9 years into our entrepreneurial journey. And she's always telling me, like, she wants to know what's going on and she has some questions, but I don't remember a time when she said, "Hey, I don't do that. Please don't risk our future on that, or please don't take that chance." It's always, "Hey, you've proven yourself. If you think it's going to work, then swing for it." And if it doesn't work, I also never hear, "No, you shouldn't have done that." She's the best.
That's interesting, man, because, it's kind of like at this state, later in life or whatever, like into life a bit, you said, like, you articulated it as you decided that you didn't want to work for anybody else and you wanted to be an entrepreneur. You probably had that desire before then. It's not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That desire didn't necessarily creep up then. It was like the conviction settled in then.
Well, and yes. And I started to be exposed to more people that were business owners and did work for themselves. The way it manifested itself before I was mature enough to understand it, it was always working for people stupider than me, right? Always working for someone that's telling me to do something when I actually know better. Not a healthy mindset, of course, but that was my mindset. It's like, why am I working for this idiot? This idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. I should just be able to do what I want. And, that was a lot of immaturity on my part, but also a realization or recognition that I probably could do it on my own. Even if I couldn't actually do it better than them. You don't have to be the best business owner in the world to be successful. You just got to be good enough.
Sure. Well, I think there's something interesting. I mean, you had a roundabout way into the painting industry. There's lots of guys, met one this week, started his business in 2004. He's been at it for quite a while. Mm-hmm. We actually met a couple guys that have been in it for like over 20 years. And I think there's even maybe similar where a lot of guys, especially I think when you start younger, a business, you maybe have an idea of what you want, and then you try things and some things work and some things don't. You kind of know what you know, you're exposed to who you're exposed to. But I've heard this story, I know you have a million times. This is the value of like things like the PCA or mastermind groups or whatever. And, some people get it from their spouse. I think some people get it from industry friends. Once you kind of get some clarity of what's possible, and then you get some kind of permission and support of, hey, like, you can do this, like, do it. Like how impactful that could be. So that's good. Whenever you first started, whenever it was like, okay, Ellison Painting is this thing, I've started it, we're off and running. What did success look like for you? Like, whenever you envision success for Ellison Painting, when revenue is zero, and like, what was your initial conception of what success for Ellison Painting was? And then after you answer that, I'd be curious if that's changed. But maybe at the beginning, how did you define that?
Yeah, I mean, well, at the beginning, it was about Rachel and I and our kids. At that time, we had Lennox, and then Simon was 2 years old, about to turn 2. And it was, all right, I gotta feed my family. And so success for us was not having to go back to work for someone else. And we've always lived below our means, and we've always been willing to live even lower if we need to. That was part of the strength in our decision to work for ourselves. Is let's swing for the fences. Worst case scenario, we're both employable, and we can go work for someone else. And now we've achieved some level of financial success, but we don't need it. Like, we would be very happy and content making way less money than we make now. So that means we weren't trying to say, all right, let's grow Ellison Painting to $50 million. It was, all right, let's grow the business quickly so that we are generating enough profit to at least maintain the lifestyle we have now. And if it grows beyond that, fantastic. If not, we're still going to be happy. We'll just run a smaller company. So that was success. And the number, if you ask me what the number was, the number for me was about $1.5 million in revenue. Figured I knew I could sell 1.5 million. I could have a project manager manage 1.5 million. We could probably have an admin, and that business, a business like that, could easily run at a 15 to 20% net profit, and we're making really good money, what I consider really good money anyway, or did at the time. And it would be what I would consider a simple business.
Yeah. How has that changed? What is success for Ellison Painting now?
Now I want 5 Lamborghinis and a Malibu beach house. Yeah. So now we've reached this level. We did that million the first 7 months. We did 3 million in 2023. We did 5 million in 2024. Now we're at this level where it's opened up a lot of opportunities and allows us to cast a broader vision. It's now far beyond what me and my family need. And that now feels like, all right, Ellison family, my personal family, we're fine. We're better than fine. We're taken care of. So now success looks like, all right, how many people can we bring along with us? What sort of opportunities can we provide to our subcontractors who almost all of them, maybe all of them now, are first generation immigrants to the US. Really good guys, just they don't want to sell, they don't want to collect, they don't want to manage anything other than the paint job. So how can we provide opportunities for them that they haven't had in this industry up till their relationship with Ellison Painting? What opportunities can I provide for the people that come and trust me on the sales team and the project management team, and now my partner Tim? Like, what opportunities can we provide for the Bergsma family, for him and his wife and Leon? That's success for us. And when you're thinking about it, there's no upper limit on success then, right? I can focus on the people we have now, but how many more people can we bring into the fold as we continue to grow to 7 million, 10 million, 20 million, multi-location, minority ownership in other companies like you guys are doing it all? If there's like a million different things that we could explore that would provide more opportunities for more people.
I love that, man. On growth, so you kind of hit that. So, you have this growth story that is often admired, and rightfully so. Potentially rightfully so, though. And this is not a knock at you, but what I want, like, this can be with like very successful people sometimes. Elon Musk is helpful with this, right? Like, in a number of interviews, he's been pretty self-aware of, he's a guy that a lot of people think is amazing and incredible, and obviously he's doing all this crazy stuff. And he's said like, most people would hate to be me. Like, my life is not. Sometimes I don't like my life, but there's this. And Jeff Bezos talks about how some of these missions, like, we don't choose our missions; missions choose us, kind of thing. Like, sometimes these people that do these things, they're kind of possessed by it, not necessarily in a bad way entirely, but anyways, all that to say, I think there's wanting something and seeing something, and then there's the reality of actually living inside of it. You've had insane growth. You've gone through that. A lot of people, if you asked them and polled them, do you want like that kind of growth for your company? Well, a ton of people would say yes. But like, what would you say going through that, like, people don't appreciate about rapid growth, or maybe like they don't think about enough of like what that is really like?
Man, maybe this is not the right question for me, because I think the perception is, if you're growing a company very rapidly like that, it also means you're working 80 hours a week. It means you're never sleeping because you're so stressed out, and you have just an equal amount of problems, uh, relative to your growth. And honestly, I don't want to say it's been easy. It hasn't been easy, but I also have been able to maintain a very healthy work-life balance, right? I'm home every day for family dinner by 5:15, and I'm getting to the gym every day. And I get more time with my wife and kids than most dads, certainly most dads, my age. Uh, but it's not, it wasn't easy because it was just easy. I think it's easy because we made a lot of decisions, a lot of tough decisions, risky decisions that continue to pay off. The decision to bring people on board before we could afford them, right? I hiring project managers and salespeople before my profit and loss sheet says that I can afford it, and spending money on marketing before I have the money to do so. Relinquishing control in the business when I suspect that I'm about to reach my ceiling of what I can do, and recognize that I will soon be the limiting factor to my business, which then means I'm restricting the opportunities for others that I say I care about. So I think the hard part for others are making those decisions and taking those risks, which I get. I have a very, very high tolerance for risk, and most people don't even come close to my tolerance for that risk. I think part of that is because I have lost everything before. I went through I was married before I was married to Rachel for 8 years. And through that separation and divorce, I lost everything. I mean, everything. Lost all my friends. I lost my church. I lost my job. I lost all my money. I lost everything. So I've been to the bottom of the barrel, and I know that I came out the other side. And having been through that, what's the worst that can happen? There's no danger of me losing Rachel and the kids now. Like, I can assure you that. That's the one thing that I absolutely will never lose. But everything else, business crash and burn, I got to go get another job. I got to sell our nice house, and whatever. I can lose all that and we'll still be fine. So I think that's difficult. That is difficult for people to risk losing. And so they make what they consider easy decisions, which then make their life more difficult for a longer amount of time, right? That they are the ones that are working 70, 80 hours a week, stressing about every little thing in their business, because if it falls apart, then their whole world is falling apart. And for me,
yeah. Well, I mean, earlier you mentioned you had this experience of, I'm working for guys that are not as smart as me. Why are they in that position and I'm not? I'm smarter than them. And I think risk is how those things happen. People that are not necessarily that smart or that talented, they take risks for whatever reason that other people are not typically willing to take. And then when it pays off, they find themselves to be in a position where they own a business
right.
that is successful because they took a risk, not necessarily because, and obviously there is a floor, right? Like there is a minimum viable competency that you have to have.
Yeah.
But I think that's the counterintuitive thing about success in business sometimes is it's not always relative to skill and ability. It's opportunity, risk, etc. But I would totally agree with you. And we experienced this with Aleph too, I think, of people partner with us because they want to grow their business. Aggressive growth is always part of what we're up to. And there is a desire to do that. And then there's the reality of living in that, week to week, quarter to quarter, where you're spending, on marketing dollars and you're doing different things. And yeah, I think that that stomaching that and doing things like that, it's a different experience.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs too have this irrational belief in themselves, and it ends up manifesting them positively, right? Like you said, there's a minimum threshold where this level of competence is needed to be a successful business owner. But there's a lot of people that are, employees that are way above that level.
Sure.
If there's an irrational belief that you can actually do something, oftentimes those things are going to happen. It's the irrational belief that a very average 5'7", partially balding man can land an absolute knockout 10 out of 10 woman and marry her, right? I don't know why I believed that could happen, but because I believed it could happen, I had the confidence that it might happen, and it gave me the confidence to then pursue the woman that became my wife, right? Irrational belief that I can not work for other people and create an organization and a sustainable business that is going to provide for me and my family far better than I could ever even imagine. The irrational belief then leads to the risk taking, right? The willingness to take that risk because you believe that it can happen.
Yeah, but even that, I'd be curious your take on this, right? So in these different areas and arenas where you've had success, like yes, I agree with that. Of there's this irrational belief, but maybe that doesn't necessarily mean that you believe and you see clearly the entire path to get there. But there's something of like that boils itself down into these individual moments, right? Because even like business success, it all boils down to like investing in marketing, right? We say that, and that's this kind of catch-all term. But what that boiled down to is like, I don't know, $5,000 at a time, $10,000 at a time, whatever it is, right? You kind of wrote the check for these campaigns. You made the hire, and that hire was maybe they were for 60 grand a year, 70 grand a year, but there was like the first couple months of that, the payroll of that, and the cash flow pinch. That's what that really. So even that, it kind of boils down to these individual moments and decisions, right?
For sure. And I think a lot of my success, I'm willing to say, is partially good fortune, right time, right place, right people. But it's also the ability to acknowledge when these opportunities are presenting themselves and willing to put myself out. I've shared this story a couple of times. I don't know if you've heard this story, but this is one of my favorites. So I'm working for that other painting company, and I think that's the biggest, baddest painting company in the world. I had not met anyone in the industry, and we were doing between $2 to $2.5 million a year in residential paint services. Profitable company. I was making good money, better money than I ever made before. I thought we were killing it. And then I get invited by Tanner Mullen to join this little Facebook group, Painting Contractors Facebook group. And I was one of the first few hundred members. And in pretty short order, I start meeting people from around the industry, and I start kind of opening my eyes like, oh my gosh, there's other things out there. Well, I meet this guy named Jamie Burkhardt. I don't know if you'd ever met Jamie. He still owns a painting company, but it's doing some roofing now down in Tennessee. I met him through a Facebook group. And he said, hey, I want to put together like this impromptu mastermind, get together, you, me, and a couple other painting contractors, and just talk for an hour and share some ideas. I said, oh, I love that. Let's do that. So he organizes a Zoom call, and there's 4 of us that log in. And I'm an Enneagram 8, which means I'm like, I don't know if you know Enneagram, but it's like the CEO type. I hate uncomfortable silence. I'm willing to just like take control and move things forward so that other people don't feel uncomfortable. So the meeting starts, and he's like, does anyone want to start? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. So I'm like, hey, I'm Brad Ellison. I run this company in Metro Detroit. Yeah, really good company, really big. We're like $2.5 million, really a lot of 5-star reviews. And yeah, that's me. Next person gets on and goes, hey, I'm Jason Paris. I own a company called Paris Painting. We're up in Minneapolis. I think we're on pace to do about $8 million this year. Plus we have this roofing division that does $3 million, and we own this marketing company that does this. And I'm like, okay. And then he finishes up, and the next guy goes, hey, I'm Jason Phillips Home Improvements down in Dallas, Texas. I think we're going to do like $15 million in paint services this year. I felt like such an idiot, right? Now, I hope that I didn't come off as arrogant as I remember me being in that first call. But that moment, like, holy smokes, these guys are doing what I'm doing, but way better and way bigger. And I didn't even know that they existed. I had no idea about the opportunity in the industry. So I could have just said, I could have responded like, yeah, right. Those guys, they're lying about their numbers. I could have responded that way. I could have thought, oh yeah, like they're better than us because they're bigger. Could have thought that. Instead, I reached out to Jason Paris directly and I said, hey, man, is there any way I could come up to Minneapolis and get a day's worth of your time just to see what you guys do? And that phone call or text message or whatever it was to Jason Paris and his willingness to say, yeah, fly on up, let's do it. That was the change for everything for me. That was the beginning of my transition away from the other company towards starting my own. Introduced me to every single person now that I consider a partner and colleague within the industry. Started my path towards being on the board of the Painting Contractors Association, everything. How many people would have, first off, not accepted the invitation to the Zoom because they're too busy working on their business? How many people would have responded very differently than I did? And how many people would have taken that next step to reach out to Jason and actually fly up to Minneapolis on my own dime? I think that's a representation of some of the decisions that I've made along the way that have continued to allow us to continue to grow. So I don't know. You're right. It's a lot of small opportunities, one at a time, but identifying those opportunities that fly over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah, that's great, man. And again, I think, if we were, chilling inside your mind at the time, I don't think that you had, like, whenever you were like, I should reach out to Jason, it's because you had this, clarity towards, this big painting company and starting a marketing company. And, you didn't have necessarily clarity of like where that would lead, but there's just this, I can learn, I want to learn, and giving yourself over to that, which is great.
Yeah.
And the comfortability of rejection and all that stuff. But it's like, maybe he'll talk to me. So that's good, man. That's good. A question I'm curious about again, and maybe give me an idea of what's the latest state of the state in terms of the infrastructure of your business. Like, how big's your team? Like, what does the business look like? If you want to share numbers, go ahead. But I'm just more of like, what is the thing? Like, what does the organism look like? And the role that you play too.
Yep. So, as you know, last year I decided to bring on a partner, Tim, and all of 2024, I was kind of heading up the sales and marketing. He was handling all of the production, and that worked really well. We structured the partnership. The first year was just a trial. He didn't officially own the business. He was an employee, though he was being compensated based, in part by a percentage of profit. And we just wanted to see, all right, let's do this first year. Let's see whether we both want to continue to work together, and then we'll move forward with the actual ownership. 2024 was killer. It was awesome. And he is great fit for this business, great fit for the culture. I think he's a really good partner for me. We get along well. We have similar visions and values. And so for 2025, we transitioned the structure of the business where he is, we don't really do titles, but he's essentially the COO. He's running everything in Ellison Painting. He is the direct manager of every department. The only person that he reports to is me, and the only person that reports to me is him. And even then is like, we're partners. I'm just the CEO. I'm the visionary. It's Ellison Painting, and my name is Brad Ellison. So Tim is managing all that. We currently have 3 full-time salespeople. One of them just finished their training, so he's been out on his own about a week and a half now. We have 2 full-time project managers and a third that we hired on a 1099 basis. So he works part-time. He's actually a full-time firefighter, but he retires December 1st. So the idea was he would transition into full-time after that. We have, a VA that serves as our estimate scheduler. So she handles all incoming lead intake, scheduling all the estimates. And then we have 2 project coordinators. So they're responsible, once a job is sold, coordinating everything else around that. Scheduling the jobs, scheduling the crews, communicating with the customers and all that. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of us, I suppose, including me. But my day-to-day in Ellison Painting is pretty minimal at this point. I'm doing estimates for any commercial bids that come in, which are, maybe 1 or 2 a week. And then I'm going on some estimates if it's a personal referral, or we have a couple builders that we have relationships with. I'll go do the estimates for them. but it's maybe 4 or 5 estimates a week. And outside of that, I'm attending meetings and talking with Tim and helping in any way that I can.
Got it. And so that's obviously very different than, a $1.5 million business that I do the sales and I got a PM and admin, whatnot. And one of the things I'm always curious about is going through transformation of a business like that. Is there anything that you've really changed your mind about? Maybe whether it's strategy or convictions about business, and maybe applied specifically to painting or business in general, that you would kind of look back and be like, yeah, I used to think this. I don't think that anymore. And I think this. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, there's not anything that comes directly to mind, but part of that is because I've intentionally not tried to create anything new or novel and just copy what other people have done, right? You know that I joke that Ellison Painting is Paris Painting 2.0. We're doing very similar things to what you guys did. We're just doing them faster than you guys did because you already did them. And you guys have been so open-handed with your strategies and some of your resources. So and obviously Paris Painting is not the only example that we've used to build the company. There's plenty that I could name off, but because we're really just trying to implement systems that other people have already implemented effectively and just make them our style, I don't think that there's a lot that I would need to change. We've talked about core values and maybe reordering some of those. But fundamentally, Rachel and I, when we started the company, we had the vision to just like treat people well, right? Treat our subs well, treat our customers well, live open-handedly, and live with and operate with super high integrity and professionalism. Because we've continued to live by those credos and grow the business through those credos, there hasn't been many opportunities for us to say, oh man, we were really doing that wrong. We're just making tweaks. We're making tweaks on our sales process. We're making tweaks on our project management process. Tim has come in, and Rachel and I, before we even sold our first job, we wrote out an outline of what we wanted the customer journey to look like, all the things that needed to be done, and who was responsible for that. Now, at the beginning, it was either me or Rachel, but we really titled it like, all right, this is a sales responsibility. This is a project management. This is a project coordinator. So Tim has now taken that and turned it into these really, really sweet playbooks with videos and photos and outlines and everything. It's really brilliant. But if you compare what's in that to our original outline, it's not much different, right? The way we operate, I guess, point by point is different, but the overlying structure and principle has not changed. So if I go back and change things, I probably would have been a little bit better on choosing who to hire on the project management side at the beginning. Made a couple hires that didn't turn out so well for us, but because we stayed true to our core values and I had a pretty decent team assembled at that point, we were able to cover and continue to grow. So we've learned that lesson and we're better at hiring now, I think.
That's great, man. Yeah, I like that. It's like, if you have good mentors that have found success, like, don't reinvent the wheel. And sometimes the most novel thing is to just copy exactly what's been done before.
Well, and I think a lot of people I imagine look at me and think, oh, well, that's like a unicorn. Not many people have done that, and very few people will be able to do it again. And I would say, yeah, maybe I'm one of the few that has grown this quickly, but I certainly won't be the last. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and be some creative paint company, just be a really good paint company and do what other people are doing. A lot of us have already figured these things out. A lot of us, we've offered those playbooks for free to dozens and dozens of other painting contractors, some of which are in my market that are my direct competitors, right? And we don't charge them for it. You don't reinvent the wheel. We don't need to be anything super special to be special.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, give me the quick, like a recap. Rollout marketing that started in 2025. Like, what is that? What are you doing with that?
Mhm.
Give me a quick rundown of that, and then I have some questions on your experience
Sure.
with that so far.
So, part of our long term plan was always if we got to the point that we were big enough to bring our marketing in house, that we would then offer those marketing services to other painting companies as well. We would turn it into a business. And we didn't have a timeline for that. I had worked very successfully with other marketing agencies in our space. Most recently, it was with Base Coat Marketing, Austin Hauser. Really good guy, really good company, got us really, really good results. They were instrumental in helping us to get from 3 million to 5 million. But I had a local friend here, Rick Uditsky, approached me. He goes to the gym with me, and he said, "Hey, he's been in digital marketing for 2 decades." He said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a marketing agency for local companies. Would you want to partner on that?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. I have no interest in learning dozens of new industries and trying to sell services to a bunch of small companies that don't have any money to pay for marketing. But we've considered bringing our marketing in house and offering marketing services to painters. If you want to partner in something like that, let's talk." So that was in October, baby, of 2024, and we talked. We decided, all right, let's like really flesh out this idea. It might be something for real, and made the decision to pull the trigger in November and open up Rollout Marketing. So Rollout Marketing, we have 3 partners. It's me, Tim, and Rick. And then we have another guy, Paolo, who's been working with Rick forever and ever. That's now kind of spearheading the production and the account management for that business. So we are a marketing agency for painters exclusively. We build websites, we run Facebook ads, we run Google ads, but we also offer strategic consulting and coaching. And because we've built a $5 million a year company, and we did it pretty darn quickly, we have learned a lot, and we have a lot of the systems in place that other companies need to have in place. So we're helping them build out their playbooks, and we're working on their sales processes, but we're also teaching them how to recruit and onboard and manage subcontractors, and how to actually produce jobs, and how to get Google reviews. So all the things that we do really well at Ellison Painting, we are also helping our clients with. So that's been a large portion of my focus, my time. But even then, like I already talked about my commitment to my family time. It's still a normal. I'm working like 30 hours a week right now, I think, total.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, now that you've started like servicing other businesses, and you've always been, go back to that, Jamie Burkhart group, and you're talking to people, you're willing to fly up and look around, talk around. So maybe you've been pretty exposed, but now starting, I don't know, having like a consulting relationship is different, than
Mm-hmm.
having a friendship or a conversational relationship at conferences. Has getting into some of these businesses from that vantage point, how has that like expanded your understanding, or I don't know, what have you seen? What have you thought? Like, what's that been like for you? And you're thinking about what drives success, what doesn't, what inhibits it,
Yeah, so
etc.
it's definitely opened my eyes to the true state of the painting industry. Um, when you're talking primarily with companies like Paris Painting and Harpeth Painting, the Kuipers, and Onnit Painting, Chris Elliott, and Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration, you start to subconsciously believe that all painting companies operate this way. We all understand sales, and we all understand production, and we all understand the value of softwares and systems and repeatable processes. And certainly some of our clients, that is descriptive of them, for sure. Some of our clients are on the early end of that. We had one that didn't even have a CRM set up when he signed up with us, so we're helping him build out his CRM and his drips and his follow-up campaigns and how he builds out proposals. We're helping him do all that. We have clients that are just don't appear to be very good at sales. and we can generate all the leads for them, and we can coach them all we can, but maybe they're never going to be achieve the level of sales success that they really need to be a really good company. So it's making me realize that not everyone has the natural skills that I had, for sure. I mean, I knew that obviously, but it doesn't come as naturally. A lot of these management styles, sales skills, doesn't come as naturally to other people. And it's reinforcing the importance of systems then, because you can have someone that's not a great salesperson, but if they follow a really, really good sales system, they should be able to achieve at least a minimum level of success that it's going to allow their company to continue to grow. So yeah, it's not really changing my perception of the industry, but it's opening my eyes to the needs of companies that aren't owned by my friends, right? Their needs are very different. Yeah. Like Peak, I don't know if you know Seth Peak. Peak Painting is one of our clients. He's out in California. He's a really sharp guy, really great sales guy. He doesn't need my sales coaching. He doesn't need me to teach him how to recruit painters or manage people. You know what he needs? He needs leads. So we generate leads and he goes and sells them. And it's a great relationship. So we're still trying to navigate how we can best serve our clients. And we've actually paused bringing on new clients for the time being, because I have very high expectations. Anything that's attached to my name that represents me, and certainly that I own, I want to be operating among the best of the best. And I don't think we're the best marketing agency right now. I think we're probably the best at some things. I doubt that anyone's providing a higher level of customer service than us. I doubt that anyone's being more creative or curious or innovative than we are. But people don't really care about those things when they hire a marketing agency. What do they care about? How many leads are they getting? So we're definitely not the best right now at generating leads. So we're leaning heavier into the consulting and coaching piece for our clients, figuring out how to really, really crank out leads better than anyone else. And then at that point, you guys are going to be so annoyed by me and how vocal I am about us being the best. And then we'll start selling.
Well, man, I want to give you kudos of like on a public conversation to say that. And maybe that just even goes into some of the comfortability of, maybe that irrational, like maybe that, even that, like an example of like maybe being irrational. And like, if your business is not doing what it should be, acknowledging that, in a certain area with others is not necessarily a concession that it's always going to be that way. And I think sometimes, you know what I mean? Like leaders and things like that, like if you're not as good at coaching or your people are not having success or whatever the case may be, I think a lot of leaders might be like, no, we're good, or I'm not going to talk about it, or I'm going to skirt that or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then things fester and you just rob improvement. But if you, address things as they are. So that gives me confidence that you guys are going to get better and better just because you have willingness to be real about where you're at.
We are either going to get better and better and be the best, or we close up shop and I maybe go back to base coat marketing. And I'm not too proud to do that.
Sure. So it's interesting. You started this, well, there was the seed of this desire way back when. Then you kind of have this opportunity. Again, this is maybe another theme. In October of 24, this guy kind of brings this opportunity. November, you're diving deep into conversations and launching it. Like that's not a whole lot of time to launch a business when you have another business and a family and whatnot. Are you like, when it comes to like goals, are you a big goals guy? Are you a big like lifestyle design guy?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we always have a goal in mind. We have a strategic plan to get there. But I think part of our strength, like mine and Rachel's strength, Ellison Painting strength, and Rollout Marketing strength, is that we are also very willing to pivot when it's clear that we need to change course. Some people get stuck on their path. They're like, we're just going to keep pushing. You're like, you're going to push yourself to death, and you're never going to get even close to the goal that you had. So the goals change. When we launched, we pie in the sky goals for this year. We wanted to end the year with 85 clients, which was going to be a very profitable business. And we would have, 3 account managers, and I would not even be selling our services. I would just kind of be the public face and do podcasts and stuff. And now we're saying, all right, let's hunker down. Maybe we really just take the rest of this year to perfect our service, and then we come out swinging for 2025. The strategic advantage we have is that I don't need to make any money from Rollout Marketing. Ellison Painting is operating almost hands off for me. It's very profitable without me. And so that gives me a lot of freedom to say, all right, let's really do this the right way then. I'm not paying myself a salary, which obviously is an opportunity that most marketing agencies don't have. They launch and they got to make money, which is maybe why they push that bravado and sell themselves bigger than they are. I don't have to do that. And we'll see. So we have goals, but now we're changing our goals. Our goal is our goal right now in our team meeting this week is at the end of June to identify whether we are going to be the best marketing agency in the industry or we are not going to be a marketing agency at all. That's our goal. End of June, that's our goal. That question is going to be answered one way or another. And then, on the personal side, I used to have goals of related to like a certain amount of weight I wanted to lift on these certain lifts. And that's shifted. I'm playing a lot of pickleball, doing like half pickleball, half CrossFit. And my goal is just to get exercise 6 days a week and stay healthy. So when my kids are older, I can still run around and play with them.
Yeah. I love that, man. Willing to iterate, learn, retool. But acting on it, take the risk. That's great. Well, man, great conversation. I really, really do appreciate your time, what you're doing in the industry. I know are helping a lot of people. And
well, I appreciate you guys. I mean, you guys are leading the charge. And again, I'm just we're trying to emulate what you guys are doing in some different ways. But I think you guys are guided by a certain set of principles that we are also guided by. And you guys have kind of laid the path for us. And we certainly appreciate that. We not only do we appreciate, we legit love you guys. And everything that you guys are doing for the industry is just better for the rest of us. And by your example, we're trying to do the same. That's all.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Cooperation.
Yes, sir.
Cooperation. Jason, a la Jason.
Before you hang up, on that note, want to hear something funny? I've really embraced this cooperation thing that Nick and Jason talk about. And I got a buddy here locally. His name's Nick Kelly, Elite Paint. I don't know if you've ever met him. If you've met him, he talks like this. It's like, hey, I'm Nick Kelly, right? That's his voice. Nick has become a really good friend of mine, even though we bid against each other on lots of jobs. Well, he got a bad Facebook recommendation this week, and it happened to be from someone that I went to college with. So I reached out to him. I got the full story, and I ended up calling this guy and talking him off the ledge. And this morning he took the bad Facebook recommendation down. And I was joking with my college buddy saying, it's actually better for me technically, probably, if you leave it up there, because people will read it. And when they're deciding whether they want to hire my company or Nick's company, maybe it'll play to my advantage, but that's not how I roll. You know me. I don't need that. I know Nick. I like Nick. I trust Nick. What you're saying about him is not representative of him as a human. And I'm not going to ask you to take it down, but if you did, that'd be a big guy thing to do. And he ended up taking it down. I don't know how many other painting contractors would try to get a negative review taken down for one of their competitors.
That's great.
But that's, again, the cooperation.
But also, too, that doesn't just come out of thin air. Like, I think, right, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if, like, Jason also wouldn't have been like, yeah, man, come up to Minnesota and download our stuff. And over the just having the exposure to a community that's like, yeah, we don't have to compete against each other.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, let's compete against each other. But that doesn't, it's like the pie is so large that
Yes.
even that can be like beneficial
Oh,
to both of
Nick
us.
and I still compete. And when we beat him on a bid, I make sure and let him know. Right.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, man. And just to, I think for people who are growing their businesses and have aspirations for larger and larger businesses, and obviously Aleph has 20 partners now. There's 3 markets that we have multiple partners in. And obviously this is a question of, can there be multiple partners and can the market sustain it and things like that? I'll tell you, like, data is showing us more and more. There is so much opportunity. This industry is so fragmented, and it honestly can help you and propel you to have somebody close to you, like another business that competes with you, maybe, that is raising that bar and somewhat stabilizing the client base and the customer expectations. So it's just, I think there's been a hunch for a while, but even now I think data is starting to come in of like, if you have somebody who is similarly excellent in your market, like get to know them and help each other. Like it'll help both of you. We're not afraid of it. We're leaning into it when we invest in different markets. So yeah.
All right, man.
Thanks, brother. Keep up the good work. We'll have to do it again.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.